Welcome to RealGM Radio. We have a bunch to get to today. Dieter Kurtenbach is going to join me in a second for some big picture NBA topics. But before we get to Dieter, I have a 5-pack of NBA observations about LeBron's future, a little post-lottery mock draft that I'm really excited about. I'm going to talk about Wemby's elbow and what the Bucks do with Giannis, and we're going to try to do all of it in 15 minutes. So we'll see if we can get under that 15-minute mark. Also, a reminder, though, to subscribe to RealGM Radio to check out all of the great shows that we have 4 times a week, including the Double Dribble with Mo Dakhil and Jared Dubin on Mondays and Wednesdays. We have Good Take with me and Mike Shear on Thursdays, where we're live streaming at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Thursdays on our YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. That means that once we get to that 1,000 mark, we can start monetizing the channel. So support us, and that support is going to go a long way into what we're building here. So we'd really appreciate that. But 5-pack of NBA observations in less than 15 minutes. Let's go. We're going to start with last night's game between the Pistons and the Cavaliers. Cavaliers get the win. This game was decided with a 23-0 run to start the third quarter. Donovan Mitchell was great. He was awesome in that 23-0 run. I want to go through that full 23-0 run, but I just want to talk about the Donovan Mitchell baskets here. James Harden was really good during that run too. Evan Mobley was really important, as I'll get to here in a second, but I want to just focus on the Donovan Mitchell basket. So the 23-0 run starts, James Harden drive, Mitchell gets a slot cut from the opposite side. Nobody on the Pistons watching. First possession out of halftime. I don't know if they were still if their minds were still in the locker room, but nobody's watching Cleveland's best player on the slot on the other side. Easy cut to the basket. And that gets Donovan Mitchell going, who, remember, did not play well in the first half. You do not want to let a guy like that get some easy ones to get going, and that has a snowball effect, and that's exactly what happens. Next possession, Tobias Harris misses on one end. Dean Wade gets the rebound, gets it out to Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell looks off James Harden coming down that left side of the floor, gets to this strong right-hand dribble, and then gets the and one over Cade Cunningham. I love when Donovan Mitchell looks off James Harden, and this is not even like an anti-Harden thing, but this is Donovan Mitchell's team. James Harden just got here. I want to see Donovan Mitchell take control of things more often, and that's exactly what happened during this opening stretch of the third quarter when the Cavs really took control of this game. There was obviously a lot of James Harden involved, right? He had that drive on that first possession that we were just talking about, and he does help generate a lot of good looks, but I love to see Donovan Mitchell coming down this floor and say, look, I'm not going to be deferential to the new guy here. I know I can get to my right hand. I know I can put my shoulder into Cade's chest, and that's exactly what, and I can get to the line, and that's exactly what happened. No flopping on that. I also love that. Next possession for the Cavs, Evan Mobley drives. He kicks it out to Dean Wade. Cade and Duncan Robinson both rotate over to Dean Wade in the corner. Wade kicks it to Harden, swings it to Harden on one side, and then he swings it to Donovan Mitchell, who hits the wide open three. Just another example of miscommunication defensively by Detroit. Very uncharacteristic, but again, they came out of the third quarter a little lackadaisical, and it really did cost them. Next possession we're talking about, Dean Wade's screen forces Duncan Robinson to switch on to Donovan Mitchell. Another miscommunication there. It looks like Duncan is trying to trap Donovan Mitchell up high on the floor, but then Cade, he switches onto the screen setter, Dean Wade. I'm not really sure what they were trying to do. If maybe it was supposed to be a peel and switch where Duncan was supposed to try to fight over and then Cade was supposed to drop and then they were both supposed to switch back, or if they were supposed to just switch it straight up at the point of the screen. I don't really know what they were trying to do there. The Pistons are typically switching in this series, but it didn't really look like they were on the same page with that. It ends up being a wide open Donovan Mitchell three, so another miscommunication by the Pistons. Next possession, Donovan Mitchell gets a steal, step back through in the left wing, easy. Donovan Mitchell on another possession gets a screen from Evan Mobley. Karis LeVert gets on the switch. Donovan Mitchell spins to a right-hand floater, and that's essentially the end of the run. The Cavs go up 75-56 at that point. And when Donovan Mitchell gets to that right hand, going back to that spin move over LeVert, he's on the right side of the floor, gets that screen from Mobley early on. Again, it looks like the Pistons are either trying to switch it, but they are moving so quickly in this scenario, which is, to me, the biggest thing for Cleveland. When they get slow and plodding and they just sort of go from one step to the next, like they're almost reading instructions in a manual about how to build IKEA furniture, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to put the screw in here, and then I'm supposed to use that little wrench thing over there. But when they go slowly like that, defenses easily catch up to all their actions, which is why it feels like their talent doesn't always exceed expectations and doesn't always turn into something, at the very least, to the sum of their parts. Not even speaking to being something greater than the sum of the parts. If Cleveland is just the sum of their parts on most nights, they're better than most teams. And it feels like sometimes they're not because they just so slowly use those parts, and it allows defenses to catch up. All these guys who can create advantages, in other words, once they create the advantage just dries up. And you see that over and over again in some of Cleveland's worst moments where they get the switch that they want, or they'll get the advantage, like the 2-on-1 advantage that they want, or whatever it is. And then they're just slow to react to it, that by the time they do, defenses have already rotated over and caught up and gotten rid of that advantage. That was not the case at this opening third quarter run. You could argue it was the case in the first half of this game, but not so much during the start of the third quarter, where they were just so quick. And I think Donovan Mitchell gets so much credit for it, where he looks at some of the more plotting things that can happen offensively for the Cavs and just says, you know what? I'm not going to do any of this. This is the Donovan Mitchell that it feels like we are promised, and that when he gets to this level, when he taps into this version of himself, it's the best version of Donovan Mitchell. And what I loved about this run was he wasn't targeting a single defender. This wasn't a guy who was like, all right, I'm going to bring the ball up half court. Let's work it until we get Duncan Robinson into a screen. And we're going to just attack Duncan Robinson over. He definitely attacked Duncan a couple times. But when you're watching this run, it wasn't like, hey, we're just going to attack this one thing over and over again. What I love about that is that Donovan Mitchell is so good that he doesn't have to do that, right? He can get a bucket over Duncan Robinson, just like he can get a bucket over Karis LeVert or Tobias Harris or even Cade Cunningham, who, again, is a good defender. He wasn't flopping to get to the line, which I loved. He was just getting a screen only just to get separation. Again, not to target anybody on a switch, but like pull the screen in from anybody, whoever was closest early in the clock, create separation, and then get to a spot. And then a lot of that time, his spot was getting to that right hand. And when Donovan Mitchell is able to get to that right hand, either on the left side or the right side of the basket, he is so freaking good with that right hand. So he was getting to his spots early, and he was doing it early in the shot clock. And that's the version of Donovan Mitchell that I really like. Again, bad in the first half, just needed a little bit to get going. And on the flip side, the Pistons just don't have a guy like that. And you really see that. That's the problem with the Pistons. When they fall too far behind, when they give up a run like this at any point in the game, they just don't have that ability to catch up offensively. And you can see that they don't really have those levers to pull offensively, right? Like they're just like, I get Cade doesn't really have it, and then Cade's out, so I guess we'll do Dennis Jenkins and we'll throw it to Tobias Harris, and then we'll get to like 8 seconds of the clock and Tobias Harris will hit some baseline fadeaway or turnaround jumper or whatever. They just don't really have those levers to pull, where in Cleveland, it's like, okay, we can have Harden drive and kick. We got those slot cuts to Donovan Mitchell, or we can let Donovan Mitchell cook. We can let Mobley, a lot of times, initiate these actions high up on the floor, get a guard to set a screen for him, and then that puts the defense into rotation. The Pistons just don't have those multiple ball handlers or shooters, so they don't have those other buttons and those other levers where they could pull. And the best part of the Cavs when they're playing like this is that it just feels like they have so many options to get to. I still think that the Pistons could win this series. I am leaning back toward the Cavs. I know earlier this week, and maybe even the conversation I have with Dieter, I can't remember if I mentioned it with him later on, but I kind of expressed some regret about picking the Cavs in this series because the Pistons looked so good, especially after game 2. I'm now going back. This is why I picked Cleveland. So yes, I am openly flip-flopping on this series over and over again. I'm sorry. I wish I could come out with you with a stronger take that I feel really good. I'm flip-flopping. That said, this did feel like a game the Pistons had to have. To get one on the road in Cleveland when the Cavs shot 34% on threes, Donovan Mitchell had a bad first half, James Harden was just so-so. You get really good games from your role players on the road. Karis LeVert, 24 points off the bench. Tobias Harris and Paul Reed were really good in this game. To not get this game, it feels like if the Pistons lose this series, this is the one they're going to look at and be like, we could have been up 3-1, and instead this is 2-2, and we had a really good chance after that first half to go ahead and steal one on the road. They still have home court advantage. They could still win this series, but if they do lose this series, I think this is the game they're going to look back and say, that's where we lost it. In terms of adjustments for Detroit, they need to clean up their help defense, first and foremost. Maybe instead of switching everything and just going right into rotations, again, they give up these switches so easily sometimes. It drives me crazy when teams do this. It's like, do you really just need to openly give up Duncan Robinson on the switch and let him and just leave him on an island out there? It just feels like they don't need to give up those switches so easily. This is a tough physical team. Be tough and physical, even at the point of attack. and at the point of the screen. So maybe don't switch everything right after and then go right into rotations, because Cleveland just picked apart Detroit's help defense over and over and over again because those rotations were so late, like we were talking about during that 23-0 run. Maybe instead of switching everything right away, fight over these screens, play more of a drop with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart at the basket, try to cut off these Harden and Mitchell drives just a step or two earlier, and then all of a sudden you don't have to rotate as hard. Those kickouts are a little bit harder for Cleveland. Those threes aren't as open as they are. And that's the other thing. If you're the Pistons, you need to generate more threes. You shot 44% on threes. Cleveland shot 34%. And yet the Cavs still made 4 more three-pointers than you and outscored you from beyond the arc because they took 18 more three-point attempts than you. You don't have to abandon your entire identity. You need to get to the paint first and foremost. You got to get those second chance points if you're Detroit. But you cannot give up 18 more three-point attempts. It's not about taking as many threes as Cleveland, but it's about narrowing that gap a little bit. So if I'm looking at adjustments for Detroit, when this series goes back to Detroit, those are them. All right, we took a little long on that one. We're going to try to go quicker with this one. Thunder Lakers is the other game from last night. Another close call for the Lakers. They almost get this one. I never really felt like they were going to win. Maybe not until LeBron had a chance with that layup with 20 seconds left. I was like, oh, maybe they are going to steal this one. I always felt like for 99% of this game, even as close as it got, after the Lakers rallied late in this game, it just kind of feels like the Thunder are just going to win this game anyway and close it out. They do. Back in the Western Conference Finals, they potentially have a very easy path. Which, look, when you're the number 1 seed, you earn that easy path. That's the point of getting the 1 seed, is you get the easier path ostensibly in the playoffs. So you get you get Phoenix, and then you get a beat up Lakers team. And now you could potentially get a beat-up Wolves or Spurs team. They're beating up on each other right now. And you could get a full week off. And if that Wolves-Spurs series goes 7 games, that's going to be a quick turnaround for them. And you've got a full week off. We'll see if Jalen Williams plays in the Western Conference Finals. But honestly, I don't even know if they're going to need him, to be honest. We do have more time to talk Thunder, so I'm going to put a pin in that for now. Let's talk Lakers. Let's talk LeBron. Because LeBron James obviously was going to be asked about his future after this one. There's sort of this fake thing. I don't know if it's fake. I guess it's fair to call it a question about, is this LeBron's last game? Is he going to retire? You see this on social media and as an ESPN talking point and a talking point overall, like, what if this is LeBron's last game? Let's celebrate. What if this is LeBron's last time in Cleveland or whatever it is? I get that we have to do it. I just don't know anybody in the league that actually thinks that this is LeBron's last season. And after the game, he said, quote, "I don't know what the future holds for me," end quote. He talks about wanting to love the process. Does he still love the process? He's going to have to take a break, talk to his family, and really make that decision. This is one of those scenarios where, like, the talking points on TV shows and on podcasts and things like that are just dramatically different than what people are actually talking about on the ground and in league circles. And nobody that I talk to in any kind of league circle actually thinks that this is LeBron's last season. And so when I hear these things about, is this LeBron's last, it just feels really hollow and empty to me and just kind of silly. So whatever. My 2 main takeaways from LeBron's post-game press conference, when he, not necessarily talking about whether he's going to play again, but talking about his future in general, he talked about being the 3rd option with the Lakers toward the end of the year. He said, quote, "I was put into some positions that I've never played in my career, actually in my life. I've never been a 3rd option in my life, so to be able to thrive in that role for that period of time and then have to step back into the role that I've been accustomed with over my career and being able to thrive, that was pretty cool for me at this stage in my career," end quote. That doesn't sound like somebody who envisions playing that role going forward, if you're asking me. It feels like he appreciated being able to do it and appreciated being able to show that he could do it maybe more accurately, but also really appreciated getting the chance to get back into it and get into that leading role when Luka and then for some of the playoffs, Reeves was out. I got more thoughts on that here in a second. The other thing that I took away from his post-game press conference was when he was talking about championships. He said, quote, "I've done it all. I've seen it all. Just being able to compete and trying to win championships, I think that's a motivating factor," end quote. So this is a guy who is talking about maybe not wanting, playing that 3rd option role for a period of time. Again, does not sound like somebody who envisions himself playing that role going forward, but also wants to compete for championships. So how do we square those two things? Because I think LeBron is the number one option on a championship team. We're probably done with that. He can obviously do it for a few games, even in a series. He could tap into that. But in terms of being the number one option on a team for a full regular season and then the playoffs, it's too much to ask of him at this stage. So what does it look like for LeBron if he wants to win championships? Could he be the second option somewhere? Maybe not the third option behind Luka Doncic and Reeves, but could he be a second option somewhere where it does feel like he's willing to cede the floor to somebody as good as Luka and say, like, this guy is in the prime of his career. He has the body and the youth and the durability to do this for the full season. Let me play second fiddle to this guy, and then in the playoffs, I can kind of tap into this vintage stuff a few times a series, and I could do it that way. I don't know where that place is, but I do find these comments interesting, and I'm bookmarking these comments for when we get to talk more about LeBron's offseason and his future, when eventually, what I think eventually will happen is he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. I'm not ruling out a return to the Lakers. If anything, I might bet on a return to the Lakers at this point, but there's obviously Cleveland out there and things like that. But when we're starting to have those conversations and go through these options, I'm going to go back to these quotes that I bookmarked. Draft lottery thoughts. I think there's two clear winners, Chicago and Memphis. Obviously, they move up. I don't think Indiana is as much of a loser as they're being made out to be. I know that Pritchard, their general manager, had to come out and apologize to the fans. I get it. Like, losing the 5th pick and a trade for Zubac is tough. I like Zubac a lot. I don't think there's a GM in the world that would be like, I'll trade the 5th pick in this draft for Zubac. But it was a risk. And you knew that when you were making the trade. And that's okay. I don't think they are as clear losers as some people are making it out to be because, first of all, I don't know if the 5th pick in this draft is even playing for you for a team that was in the NBA Finals last year. Or he's playing, but he's not playing a lot. And I kind of like them not having to deal with that right now, honestly. You're getting Halliburton back. You're getting Nesmith. You're getting Nembhard. You've got Pascal Siakam, who was awesome this year despite playing on a bad team. And then you're bringing Zubac back. You've got TJ McConnell. You still got to flesh out the bench a little bit, figure out, maybe make some other moves here. But you have the core of a team that played a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. I don't know that you need a rookie or, frankly, need to deal with all of that rookie stuff. You don't want to get a Jonathan Kuminga situation on your hands. So I'm actually okay with them not getting the pick in this draft. Now, could they have gotten the 5th pick in this draft and then traded it? That's a little bit more extreme, but whatever. It's a loss, but it's not as big of a loss as I think people are making it out to be. Because again, they were always going to lose a 1st-round pick in the Zubac trade. It was either this one or the unprotected one later. Now they keep the unprotected one later. When who knows, that I might, we get to that point in time when we could be like, thank God the Pacers didn't have to give up that pick because it ended up being whatever. So I don't think it's as big of a loss as some people are making it out to be. This is my favorite fit mock draft for the top 5. So this is not what I think is going to happen. It's just sort of what I want to happen based on where I think these players fit the best. So right off the top, I want Utah trading up to Washington at number 1. And I'm going to tell you why. Utah clearly has wanted A.J. Debance for a long time. The Ryan Smith connection with BYU. A.J. Debance went to BYU. Basically, the Jazz owner was paying for Debance to go to BYU. And I think they would love to keep him in the state. So they trade up. And they trade Ace Bailey in number 2 to Washington for number 1. And that, maybe there's some other moving parts, but that's essentially the meat of the deal. And I really like this because not only does Utah get their guy, and we kind of get like this cool Utah storyline, but also Washington kind of gets their guy. And then the guy that wanted to go to Washington, remember, Ace Bailey was trying to get to Washington that was the rumor in the draft last year. And then Utah called his bluff and took him anyway. Now in a roundabout way, Ace Bailey in his second year gets traded to Washington. And then Washington moves to 2. And they take Darren Peterson, who I actually like more than AJ Debance for them. Right? I still haven't done enough work on this to be like, I definitely like one of these guys more than the other one. I think we're a little too low on Darren Peterson and probably a little too high on AJ Debance, although I like Debance a lot. I also like Peterson. But having Darren Peterson next to Trae Young and having Anthony Davis as a backstop there and Alex Sarr as a backstop and some of the other young pieces there, I think Darren Peterson can walk in as almost a 3-and-D wing and then develop into a guy who could be more of a facilitator, more of a lead guard, and obviously a top scorer. And then having Trae Young to kind of spoon feed him, I think would be good for him early in his career. So we've got a swap 1 and 2. Utah takes the bench at 1. Washington falls down to number 2. They get Darren Peterson and Ace Bailey, which I think would be a huge win for the Wizards. Memphis takes Cam Boozer at number 3. I love the fit of Cam Boozer in Memphis. Boozer just feels like a Memphis. No nonsense. Come in, lunch pail, all the cliches, do the work. Really high floor. And I think a guy that they could build a lot around for Memphis, especially if they're going to move off of Ja Morant. I think Cam Boozer could play like a Sabonis type of role at a higher level. I think he could be a better defender. I think he could be a better all-around scorer. But as a guy who could just be a hub of your offense and just steady, like 22 and 10, steady, super professional. I love that fit for Memphis. I've got Chicago going a little bit of a reach here, but I have them taking Darius Acuff Jr. Again, this is not a prediction, but this is my favorite fit. And I understand it's a reach, but I love the idea of Acuff in Chicago. Acuff is a Detroit guy, so not far away, Midwest kind of guy. And then Chicago's history with point guards, you think of Derrick Rose, right? Rick, like to varying degrees, but I love their history with point guards that are kind of like Darius Acuff. The idea of Acuff in Chicago in a Bulls jersey, it just feels good. It feels right. And I kind of think that he would thrive there. You got him next to Josh Giddey, Amadis Bazelis. They obviously need to clean up that roster, but I like the idea of him being sort of the head of the snake going forward. And then for the Clippers, I have them getting Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson falling to the Clippers would be an absolute huge win, steal for the Clippers. Darius Garland, Caleb Wilson, Lob City 2.0. I kind of love that. Wemby's elbow. Let's talk about this very quickly. How are we doing on time? We are way over. Okay, whatever. Let's talk about these things. Wemby's elbow. Was it dirty? 100%. Did he deserve to be suspended for maybe another game? Honestly, if the NBA would have suspended him, I would not have blinked. It was that dirty. It felt, what's the word I'm trying to think of? He thought premeditated. Like he thought of it ahead of time was what I was about to say. Premeditated. All these things. Yes, it was absolutely dirty. I do not want to hear from Spurs fans anything about, well, look at how I know Mitch Johnson was like, well, look at what they're doing to him. They're beating him up, and he was just retaliating. Look, when you're 7'5", that comes with the territory, dude. You get positives of being 7'5", like being the best player in the world, perhaps. And then the negatives are, yeah, we're going to try to stop you. And because none of us are also 7'5", we're going to beat up on you. And it just comes with the territory. I don't want to hear it from Dwight Howard. I don't want to hear it from Shaq. And I don't want to hear it from Wemby. And I don't want to hear it from Embiid. And I don't want to hear it from Jokic. All these big men complain about this stuff all the time. Hey, you got a blessing, man. You know how many NBA players would kill to be 7 foot? Miss me with that. And this is what comes with the territory, okay? So I don't want to hear it. That said, I love that Wemby threw that elbow. I loved it. And I'm going to tell you why. It sent a message. Wemby is too smart and clearly too cerebral to just get in the mix with Naz Reid in the middle of a playoff series and risk losing this, because that's what he did. He risked losing this series. They lost that game, arguably because he was out, even though he was a -2 in a few minutes, but I don't think that really matters. And it might be the wrong calculation ultimately, but I do think that there was a risk-reward element to this for Wemby, who made a decision. And if you look at that, and the way you know it was premeditated is he went and he located Naz Reid and made sure he knew exactly where Naz's head was before he threw that elbow. There was no reason to do that. But I think if we know a lot of things about Victor Wembanyama. We know that he's really smart, super talented, crazy unicorn skill set, all these things. The big question about Wemby is he tough enough? Is he tough enough? With that frame, it feels like he might not be tough enough. He doesn't look like the toughest guy in the world. And the Timberwolves came into the series thinking, oh, we can just out-tough these guys. We might not be able to out-talent these guys. We don't have anybody like Wemby. I mean, obviously we have Anthony Edwards, who's as talented as anybody. But our path to winning this series is going to be to intimidate these guys and push these guys around. And what Wemby did, I think, early in this game was say, hey, you think you could push me around? Well, guess what? If you try it, I'm going to come back at you. And if it's a little bit dirty, okay. And if it's a lot of bit dirty, even better. Wemby was sending a message. You think you could do this to me in the playoffs? You could try it, but if you do, just so you know, you might get elbowed in the head. I might give you a concussion. This was a guy going, like what they tell you, go to prison, pick the biggest guy, and then fight the biggest guy. That was Wemby doing that. That was Wemby saying, not only in this series, but for the rest of my career, you are not going to do this to me without some sort of consequences. So I loved it from Wemby. Last thing, Giannis. Shams reporting that the Bucks are seeking trade offers for Giannis. This is the most definitive sign that we've gotten that this is over. We all knew it was over. It's like one of those news, non-news things, whatever. Okay, the lottery is done. It's set. The Bucks are saying, okay, everybody in the lottery, we're open for business. This tells me that the Bucks are very much interested in those teams in the lottery, that they would like to probably move up into this draft at the top of this draft, okay? That's what the timing means of this, even if the news itself is not surprising or even all that relevant, because we all knew that Giannis was going to get traded this summer. The timing of this is the relevant part. And that's why I think they waited for the lottery to come out, and then they said, okay, we see the results. Lottery teams, we're taking your calls. We're definitely taking your calls. There's plenty of talk about Giannis's next spot, and we have plenty of time to talk about that. I'm also thinking about what the Bucks should do in this situation, because I think it obviously impacts where Giannis ends up. If you've heard some reporting now that the Bucks want to try to get some of their own picks back, I wouldn't worry. Hey, Milwaukee, don't do that, Milwaukee. Do not worry about getting your own picks back. These new tanking rules, they're not going to favor a full tank job. And I think even in trading Giannis, you could be competitive in the Eastern Conference pretty quickly. And when I say competitive, I don't mean to win the Eastern Conference. I just mean a play-in team. It's not that hard to get to play-in status in the NBA, right? It's especially if you're not trying to tank. Like if you're just like, hey, let's go out into free agency, spend some money, you can get the play-in territory in one summer. If I'm the Bucks, I'm trying to be competitive in the East while I'm getting somebody else's picks. Let me get somebody else's picks. And let's be competitive. And whatever picks we do have left, like it doesn't make sense for us to get our own picks and then tank, because with these new tanking rules, that's not going to work. So let's not worry about that. Let's just get some picks, obviously. But I'd also be trying to get 2 to 3 players, good players, in a Giannis trade. You just hired Taylor Jenkins. He's a good coach. You've got some decent young pieces already on the roster. You still have Miles Turner there, who's a solid starting center. Turn Giannis into 2 to 3 good players and some picks, and just try to be competitive in the East. And if Giannis could turn into another superstar, I know the Jaylen Brown stuff is out there. People are like, well, what did the Bucks do with Jaylen Brown? Keep Jaylen Brown. He's really good. Just do that. Because there's no point in tanking anymore with these new rules. So you might as well try to be competitive and then get somebody else's picks and hope that those picks end up being pretty good, and that whatever picks you still have, if you're a play-in team, those picks could also end up being pretty good. So that's my 5-pack of observations. Dieter Kurtenbach joins me next to talk Warriors, the future of the NBA, and future of NBA broadcasts, plus a bunch of really interesting topics as our convo goes in a bunch of different directions, as they tend to do. All right, Dieter Kurtenbach is here. You know him as a sports columnist at the Bay Area News Group, where we worked together when I was covering the Warriors. And that's where I want to start, Dieter, because
sure,
the Warriors were such a big deal when I was living in the Bay Area. Just speaking anecdotally, obviously they were a big deal before that and a little bit after that. But when I was there, my experience with the fans was hopeful and optimistic. It always just felt like the Warriors had one other thing up their sleeve, that a championship was always possible. And maybe more important than anything, they were always receiving the benefit of the doubt from most of the fan base. I'm obviously speaking in broad terms here, but
right.
It does seem more now that the fan base is down on the Warriors. I get why. It was not a great year. Like, I understand it. First, let's start there. Am I right? Because I'm getting all my info from the internet. Is that what you're seeing out there?
Yeah. There's 2 things that you can sell in this world of sports, Wes. You can sell hope or you can sell wins. Which one should the Warriors be selling right now? Which one do they even have to sell?
It feels like they can't sell anything. It feels like they have an empty storefront. And look, I get it.
And everything is expensive in the empty storefront too.
Correct.
So they're selling. Right. They're going to have to sell nostalgia, which better than nothing. You could be the Nets right now, where I don't know what the hope's supposed to be there. I guess some of these young guys come through, but like there are a lot of teams that are stuck in a purgatory. At least the Warriors get to ride it out with their number one in Steph Curry. But that's really it right now.
So you're the salesperson in this sense.
Fair enough.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so as the sports columnist, you do a great job with analysis. I don't know that fans very much care about that right now.
No.
You could talk about, we just got the draft lottery done. The Warriors have the 11th pick. It's
Yeah.
an okay pick. It's not an exciting pick. It's not like they moved up into the top 4. I'm sure you, like I did, got a little bit of hope trafficking. Like, this is how many chances that they can move up.
Right.
This is how many times it's ever happened. Maybe they could be next. And then it doesn't, right? It's very...
Thanks, Adam.
So, yeah. I want to ask you about that a little bit later. Put a pin in that. What do you sell now as the sports columnist that covers this team? Because Jimmy's not going to be back until the middle of next year at the earliest. We're going into the twilight of Steph's career. Steve Kerr just re-signed for 2 years, which is normally very good news when you have one of the all-time best winningest coaches coming back for another 2 years. But like I said, Warriors fans just seem down on everything right now.
The Warriors need to prove that they have something to sell, right? Because last year was not sellable, and there's no reason to believe that, they'll get healthy next year when they're older and already and have more mileage. Like, the car is not reliable. You can't take it to work every day. You can't take it on a road trip. What are you talking about? Like, you can't even get through your week, much less drive this thing up to Seattle and back. So
the Warriors are now a 68 Mustang that you take out on weekends. It's good. And the Warriors are like that. The Warriors are good once a week, and they're unusable the other games.
And so what I have to sell is a different expectation. Right. And this is probably the biggest problem. And everything in sports, hope or wins, expectation versus reality. The expectation has to be that Steph Curry is not winning a 5th ring. It just has to be that. They had a 1.5-year window when they got Jimmy Butler where they had an outside shot of maybe, just maybe, sneaking through, beating the Thunder when they were young and too green, getting in before Victor Wembanyama actualized. Like, they had this sliver of hope. And there was moments last season, not this most recent one, but the one prior, the year that they got Butler at the deadline, where it's like, I don't know, maybe. And then they get to the playoffs and everyone gets injured and they go out in pretty uninspiring fashion to the Timberwolves because they weren't actually good enough in that first round series against the Rockets. And they had to go 7 in that series against the Rockets team that didn't have Kevin Durant yet and was still figuring out what it was they were supposed to be. And maybe they still are in that mode. But that was last year. This year, they never turned it on. And I think that should have been expected. You had all the Kuminga nonsense. They didn't get to have an off season. They were still trying to figure out the Kuminga nonsense deep into the season, but Jimmy goes down with the torn ACL in January, and that was it. It was over. There's no chance that they could salvage anything because they didn't have that much to offer really with Jimmy Butler. What the hell are you going to do without Jimmy Butler, except for play Brandon Pajemski a lot and hope that Guy Santos turns into a competent 8th man down the line? So, which, maybe both of those things happen. So then Steph gets injured. That lasts what should have been a week, last months. This is what you're working with. And I you just have to hope that you can win another playoff series so that, the glory of the Golden State Warriors is held up in just a sliver for a little bit. The problem is this fan base got spoiled. And Wes, you and I both know there are far more Warriors fans now, and certainly even 5 years ago, than there were in 2013.
Right.
I mean, if not by multitudes of 10, 50, 100. And when you have the run that the Warriors had between 14 and 19, with that little extra something they gave you in 22, you're spoiled rotten. You don't understand what it's like. You can't find joy in truly joyful things like winning a 7-game series against the Houston Rockets last year, or even this play-in tournament win that they had this year, where it's like this one flashing moment of brilliance. That's all you're getting. It's all you're getting. You're not competing for a championship, not in the West, not now. And there's nothing that you can really do with what you have to put yourself in a position this offseason to make that happen. Beyond that, even if there was, I don't think Mike Dunleavy, the GM, is creative enough or bullish enough to figure out a way to make that happen. It's certainly beyond the scope of my powers, and I think it's well beyond the scope of Mike Dunleavy's powers, too. I think it's beyond even Sam Presti's powers, if we were to just keep throwing names around. So
it is hard, right? Like they have, this is the life cycle of great teams, and maybe even more specifically, great players.
Right.
And, I went on a podcast, it was after the 2022 championship. And the host on that podcast asked me over under 0.5 or 1.5 championships or 0.5 championships for Steph after 2022. And I went under.
Yeah.
And they were basically asking me, do you think Steph will win another ring? And I said, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And they seemed shocked by that. And I was just like, I'm kind of surprised this one happened.
Correct.
2022. Like, are we immediately going to go from this to how many more? Like, this was, to me, the capstone. This was the last thing. This was the period at the end of the sentence for Steph. And now we get to ride this out. And it is striking to me, and it shouldn't be surprising, but it always does surprise me when we kind of have this reaction of, oh my God, it's so bad in Warrior Land right now. I'm like, you just won. This happened only like in 2022.
It's fading.
It's starting to fade though, but it felt like it faded almost instantly. And I think part of that was because they just botched the two timeline things so grandly that it felt like,
100%.
hey, this thing at the end, like this light at the end of the tunnel just isn't going to be there. It turns out that there's nothing there.
Right.
And I think maybe like that, to go back to your expectations point, like the hope of, hey, we can ride this out and then we get a franchise wing like Jonathan Kuminga, who's unlike Steph. It's kind of like a different version of this, and none of it worked. And now it just feels like Warriors fans don't have that hope because they don't know what to hope for. And I do think you're absolutely right. It's time to bring expectations down, and that's okay. I do think it's okay. And again, I'm speaking as a non-Warriors fan, so maybe I'm completely out of bounds right now. But
no, you're fair.
We're now at the point with Steph where it's about moments, not accomplishments. He's gotten all the accomplishments. He's got them all. I think that even a fifth ring, I don't think dramatically changes his place in the hierarchy all time, which we can talk about.
I'll fundamentally disagree with that because of the process that would happen. I don't care about the grand scheme of things. It's pretty, I mean, one, it creates a new narrative between LeBron and Steph, which is just foundationless in my opinion. But this is the state of discourse in modern basketball, where we're still having the same banal, meaningless conversation between LeBron and Michael, and then where does Steph fit in? And what about Kareem for the old heads?
Put a pin in that because I am going to ask you to weigh in on that in a second.
Thank you. Because heaven forbid everyone doesn't have an opinion on that. But I mean, it's obviously Michael. But regardless, like if Steph were to find a way from this kind of abyss,
that's true.
In, the process of figuring out how that would happen. Like, that's some real, I mean, you want to talk about
the only way that happens is if Shea, Wemby, Jokic, Luka, Ant, they all just get hurt.
Well, we already kind of forgot that in 22, that's kind of
I wasn't going to say it. I didn't want to say it.
No, I mean, but we were there. We all saw what happened. And I'm not saying that, like, the Memphis Grizzlies would have won that series if Ja doesn't get hurt, but, like, it's a better series.
I mean, if Jamal Murray isn't out for that season, right. I think Denver wins that. I think that's the championship that kind of got away from Jokic. It's not the ones after 2023. It's the one before. Right.
You and I hate these hypotheticals in the sense of, well, this team should have won. Well, then they should have. Then there's a big difference between should have and did. And no champion. I mean, this is a Brian Windhorst line. Like, they never have to apologize. Right. Like, oh, I'm sorry, we beat every team that you put in front of us. Maybe put better teams in front of us. Oh, well, other guys got injured. How's that our fault? Like, well, maybe in the case of John Moran, it might be a little bit their fault, but that's neither here nor there. And luckily, that memory is fading. I think that the way you put it is perfect. It's all about the moments over the accolades. And yes, the accolades can still pile up, and it should be your incentive, if you are in any way involved with the Warriors, to make sure that Steph Curry leaves without any stone turned over. But like, at this point,
if I'm Mike Dunleavy Jr., all I want to do is let's be good enough to get out of the play-in.
Yeah.
And make sure that Steph is playing in 7-game playoff series. That's all. That's the goal. And by the way,
doable.
That might be a pretty high bar. I think it's doable. I do think it's doable. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to do Giannis. I wouldn't like don't trade Draymond. If
no one's trading.
Go the other way.
Well,
bring Clay back.
I'm with you on that.
Like, let's do this. Let's do this thing for a couple more years and feel good, because what's so striking to me about the Warriors, and they've always been this way, and this is a Steve Kerr thing, and he gets all, like, 100% of the credit for this. Nobody else gets any credit for what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Living in the moment. I have never seen a great team live in a moment and understand what the moment is more than Steve Kerr's Warriors, especially over these last couple of years, where they share that hug at the end of the play-in tournament, where you are constantly getting these comments from Steve about this, it's amazing what we've been able to accomplish this time. Like always kind of looking back in the moment.
Fading
also,
dynasty. Yeah.
Right. But fading dynasty. Yeah. And Warriors fans will go crazy when he says these things, but it's also very true and it's realistic.
Shouldn't have outsourced your self-worth to a basketball team that has a bunch of dudes my age. Like, I threw out my back putting my kid in the car today. Like, it's over. It's done. It's done for all of us.
Yeah, my back has never been worse. 8 months in.
It's the first time I'm 6'9", 300 pounds. My first time my back is wet was literally at daycare this morning. And I'm trying to get a kid in between like a minivan and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's just losing it. And I'm like,
I'll go the other way. I had scoliosis as a teenager. I had to get surgery for it. My back was already in bad shape. It's worse now having to lift this kid up and down.
The rods.
Very low places.
Yes.
Anyway.
You're down a lot. I will say that my flexibility's never been better because I'm just always low.
Oh, I'm always
low
locked
all the
up.
time.
I'm locked up.
Back. It's bad. My point is merely imagine just I don't know what the general size of your audience is or the general age of your audience is. I'd imagine it's mostly middle-aged white guy dads. No offense to anyone out there. We're all together on this.
Welcome to the club.
Just imagine all the pain that you feel every day as someone who doesn't play professional basketball. Now put hundreds, if not thousands of games of NBA basketball, even in the modern era, on that. And tell me that you expect these guys to play 100 games a year. Good luck with that.
I told you a legacy question was coming. Here it is.
Sure.
Steph versus Durant.
Yeah.
Is to me really interesting.
Okay.
Because they obviously played together. And when they were playing together, nobody thought Steph was the best player on that team.
Correct.
Everybody basically said it was Kevin Durant. And they were probably right. And Steve Kerr even said Kevin Durant was the best player on the team. Durant wins the finals MVPs those years. By all those sort of boxes that you're checking there should be no question. Kevin Durant is the all-time better player. And yet, I don't think that's where we're going to end up on this. We might not even be there now.
Yeah.
And I think almost certainly 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to look back and I think it'll be a consensus opinion that Steph Curry will be the all-time better player than Kevin Durant. And I find that interesting because I don't know necessarily why we think that. Is it just because of the championship before and after Durant? And if that's it, I think that's a fair. I think that's okay.
I think that's a big part of it. I think that the bigger part of it is that someone has to actually carry on your legacy for you to have a legacy. And the only person who would carry on the legacy of Kevin Durant is me. Like, as well as I do. Like, first, let's also be clear about this. The reason that we believe that Durant was a better player than Steph during that era when they were together, and I'm not disagreeing with that assessment, is that Durant is a more built for the playoffs player than Steph Curry was. Yeah. So we came down to just a fundamental biological thing more than anything else. When you are 6'10", wink, wink, and can knock down an 18-foot jump shot from any spot on the floor at will while not needing anyone to pass you the ball to put up that shot and knock it down seemingly 100% of the time, get this, you're going to have really good playoffs and you're going to win championships. And it's going to be a no doubter that you're the finals MVP because you might actually ramp up your defense, which at times is as good as you can see in the league, at least during that era, like Kawhi Leonard level defense for these spurts where he's blocking shots and getting steals and just on it. When he does that for 2 or 3 games in the finals, that leaves a lasting legacy as well. But again, you have to have somebody who wants to carry on your legacy. If you don't have that family, if you don't have these people who cared about you and care about holding the torch, it just doesn't matter. And Kevin Durant, for better or for worse, I think clearly for worse when we're getting into legacy territory at this point, has nobody who wants to stand with him. That's how he's rolled. His super fans on the internet, they don't count. Those people aren't real. Sorry, like a Bangladeshi click farm doesn't count as legacy holders. And everybody else is like, You have to separate the art from the artist. It's like, oh man, like that's not the conversation we should be having.
And you know what's really hard is when everybody in the sport describes basketball as an art. And it's like, well, then how am I supposed to separate the art from the artist? Because if the whole thing is this art piece, then what are we really doing here?
He's a brilliant artist. But
he is. Yeah. And
he couldn't get out of his own way. He couldn't accept being loved.
He couldn't avoid cutting off his ear, right? Like he
pretty
just
much
had to do it. And so.
Yeah. And maybe like Van Gogh, maybe his legacy ages better right after he's gone. Like maybe. I just don't think that's the case because so much of this is narrative. In fact, it's entirely narrative. Like the accolades are one thing.
Well, let's play that out, right? Because what's the way? Why would his legacy age better? Is it almost we get past all of the like that weird feeling that we get, icky feeling when he keeps changing teams and it didn't work, and we just go back and be like, look at this guy's freaking numbers. Like
he might be the greatest scorer of all time. Yeah.
He might exactly. Do we just at the end of the day just go back and look at his basketball reference page and just be like, I mean, it's undeniable how good this guy was.
Maybe
that's the way that it works out. But I want to go on that point. That you need somebody to talk about you afterwards. I mean, that's the great Kobe Bryant angle here, right?
Yeah,
I
think about that a lot. Legitimately, I think about the Kobe Bryant thing a lot because like you and I both know that Kobe had his very ardent supporters, and this is going to just straight up get me canceled. But like, there's a James Dean element to a lot of that too. Like maybe because you have to hold somebody who's no longer with us in a state of reverence, like it's cemented whatever the opinion of Kobe Bryant was at the time, and we don't have to deal with the man himself. He's merely a mental concept at this point. And in that, because he was, so revered at the moment of his tragic death, like that was perhaps the best thing that ever happened to his legacy in the worst possible way. And I think about that a lot, and how unfair that is obviously you prefer Kobe Bryant was alive, but too, like how unfair it is that we can't just cement the legacies of the players when they played. And now we have to hash it out in this world where everyone needs to be on camera all the time. And like, why is Charles Barkley's legacy as a basketball player somehow a point of debate last week? He hasn't played in decades. Like, I know what he was as a basketball player. He's a human being beyond that. And like our inability again to separate the art from the artist becomes challenging. So Kevin Durant just being around, as Steph Curry will just be around, as Draymond Green will just be around, as Kawhi Leonard will just be around, just go down the line. Hopefully, fingers crossed for all of them. Who knows? Kyle Shanahan's line, we don't know if we'll be here on Sunday, but like, save for the meteor, like how much of this is just inherently narrative, inherently us liking a person, disliking a person, how they play the PR game, how they play.
Well, that's what we get back to Steph too, because part of what he's going to get is that Warriors fan boost because he's only going to have played for the one team.
It's not even Warriors fans. I mean, think about how many of those Warriors fans are strictly Steph fans.
Steph fans, right. And but because he was in one spot, that's a boost, right? It's huge. The Michael Jordan. For some reason, Michael Jordan, that's a topic in the Michael Jordan versus LeBron thing.
It's not important to ask where I'm from. It's fine.
It doesn't matter, right? Like
right.
But if
but like I grew up in Chicago and I was 10 years old. Like
right.
I'm sorry, you can't. I can objectively state LeBron James is as brilliant a basketball player as I've ever seen in my life. But like, it's a feeling with Michael Jordan.
It's a feeling
with Steph.
And I think that should count, right? I think there's 100%. A lot of people in our space, and especially in my space, doing sort of dorky NBA podcasts.
No.
That will say, well, that stuff shouldn't matter. It's about the accomplishments. It's about the statistics. It's about the VORPs and the LeBron metrics and the box plus minus. And I will say this.
The people who agree with that are going to look at Kevin Durant and go like, hell yeah. In the same way that baseball people look at Ty Cobb and be like, that's awesome. Like, or, Pete Rose. Like,
and I think this is why I think Steph gets the edge. I do think that the feelings that you give to people matters. I do think I think it's okay to bake that in to your analysis. In your assessment, and it ought to be. And maybe I'm just getting like sentimental as a father here, but I also Dwayne Wade got a statue unveiled, and I'm like, you know what?
Did he want that
for
though?
Something? I still like the statue. I like.
His name is Dwayne Jones.
I like that the statue exists. I can't say that I like the statue itself.
Kevin Durant will not get a statue. He will get.
He is going to be the greatest player ever to not get a statue.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Does O.J. Simpson have a statue anywhere? Totally
the greatest
different
NBA
ballgame.
player ever to not have a statue will be Kevin Durant.
Kevon
and
Looney
that-
would get a statue before Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And would earn it.
Like who puts the statue up for Durant? Like,
Nobody.
It
That's
can't possibly
the thing.
be Golden State, and they're the only. And I think if you don't win a championship, you do not get a statue. Point.
No.
Period.
Yeah,
You don't.
got
I don't think you can have one
unless you're
only
at
won
a
championships in Golden
place
State.
that's legitimately awful, and like you made a conference finals one time. So like,
Yeah.
looking forward to Sabonis's statue in Sacramento. Didn't even make the conference finals.
The second round statue.
Second round statue.
Did they make the second round? They
No.
lost in the first round to the Warriors, right?
Yeah, but they won a play-in tournament game that one time.
Play-in tournament. The light the beam statue. Just give the beam a statue, and we'll call it a day.
By the way, all that for 7th. Oh,
you brought up media coverage, and whenever I talk to you, I want to talk to you about this stuff.
It's House of Strauss.
I am fascinated by these playoffs and
Yeah.
just the way that the streaming services have reacted, the way that the betting content has become so up at the forefront. All this stuff has been talked about.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we need to cover that ground here. What is striking to me in watching these games and the new streaming service, right? You got NBC, I think, doing a pretty good job. You've got Amazon doing a very good job, except for the occasional blackout, apparently.
And not being able to remember if it's on that channel or
not. Yeah. Well, my dad actually asked me this weekend. He was like, "How are the ratings with this?" I'm like, "Apparently, never higher."
Well, that's
like,
a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing.
I don't want to do the ratings things. But my point is, I actually think the quality has been really good. I don't know anything about ratings or the way that it's counted. I don't, and I'm.
You and I both enjoy the NBC and I think the Prime product's really good. I think
it's really good.
In a world where inside the NBA has just, I mean, it's up there, Jamie Moyering at 83 miles per hour when it used to throw 99. Just even my wife, who doesn't know squat about the NBA, she was like, inside the NBA is hilarious. These guys are just having fun. And now it feels so forced, like they're animals at the zoo.
It is, not to take Draymond's line here, but inside the NBA has done Charles Barkley on the Rockets, right? They were like, look, we don't really want to do this anymore, but the money's pretty good. So we're just going to keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe more Shaq on the Celtics, but that's neither here nor there. It's rough. It is rough. It's a tough watch because part of their charm was like who he play for, and like they were earnest. They felt like they wanted to be there. It almost felt a little clandestine, like they shouldn't let you be doing this show.
And I could be totally wrong here. It feels like ESPN sucked the life out of them, which wouldn't be at all that surprising because that it just kind of
trying to bottle something that's authentic. You're trying
to
sell it.
ESPN's credit, they kind of tried to leave it alone as much as possible, but there's only so much that you could do when you kind of went from, hey, we're kind of doing our own thing here on TNT Sports, which really only exists because we exist,
right?
And
our lead-in is Bones,
and now we're on the mothership. And we're just, it's not as, I want to try to make a Star Wars reference. The thing that the good guys drive, like that old beat up.
A TIE fighter?
The big one that they're always on. The Magnolia something or whatever it's called.
Oh, the Millennium Falcon.
The Millennium Falcon. I just alienated myself. I feel like to half my audience for some reason.
Pun intended.
Yeah, you went from like this old beat up Millennium Falcon, which was like a really cool kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now you're on the Death Star and you're just trying to do the same thing, and you're just sort of like surrounded by stormtroopers.
There's nothing punk rock about this. This is
way better version of what I tried to say in way fewer words.
This is so corporate and sanitized, and it's just commercial pop nonsense. And they were always. Now they're, instead of just being themselves, they're now playing the roles that were bought.
Yeah, they're YouTube putting an album on your iPhone.
Yeah, but even more so than that, like there are, there's some like alt comedy stuff where you like Tim Heidecker plays Tim Heidecker, but that's a character that's Tim Heidecker. Like these guys are playing the characters of Shaq, Kenny, Ernie, and Chuck, and that's really hard to do when they weren't thinking about it for 20 years. And just did what they wanted to do because it was, again, kind of under the radar. I mean, even though it was this big show, it's just like, it's on TNT. Again, like, we're going to go to another episode of The Rookie after this. It doesn't matter. And now it's, they paid a lot of money. They got paid a lot of money. They did a big promotional thing. It was saving. They did, by the way, how mentally taxing must it have been to do an entire year's worth of self-fawning and then it doesn't matter. We're coming back anyway. Do you remember the All-Star game when they thought it was gone? It was like they were playing Sarah McLachlan's "I Will Remember You" over all of their footage throughout the years, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're still on ESPN in the same studio.
Should they have just went and done a YouTube show?
No, they shouldn't have done anything. They should have let it die. I don't know how to put that, but like they should have let it die. Let Ernie finish out his contract with TNT doing the baseball coverage and Big 12 football. Kenny goes and becomes an analyst at Amazon on a game thing. Shaq goes and sells us bad insurance among printers and so many other things. And then Charles is just Charles, an omnipresent opinionist, and that would have been fine for all of them because effectively that's what they're all doing anyway. They're just forced to show up and stand behind the glass for 90 minutes once a week so that they can pretend that they still care about this thing that doesn't have its soul anymore. So that's inside the NBA.
Yeah, and
I like the Amazon one though. The problem, the original point was the Amazon one with Dirk and Blake Griffin is a stud. He's so good at this, and Udonis is really good too. Like
Steve Nash has his moments.
Like Steve Nash and Dirk, they can probably come and go if I'm being honest. But like Taylor's incredible. Blake is really, really good, and then I think UD really does provide a lot. I mean, not that anyone from Miami needs to know that. Like I lived out there. I've known UD. Like UD's the man. So
UD is necessary for Dirk because UD will say something that gets Dirk excited every once in a while, and then Dirk comes out of his shell a little bit. True.
But like what they have with, let's just even keep it even simpler than that. What they have with Blake and Taylor, it's like just bottle that up. You can make some tweaks here or there, but like that should be the show.
Yeah.
Like that should be the heir apparent to Inside the NBA.
Yes.
The problem is I'm not turning on Amazon Prime before or after a game, much in the same way I'm not turning on TNT. And maybe that's why I should have just gone. Like I'm legitimately stunned. I was watching WNBA the other day on Ion, and I'm like legit, like the channel just went off air. Like
started playing the national anthem.
Kinda. There was a lead into it was the Golden State Valkyries game. They were playing the Storm. I think it was like Friday night, and it was the opener. And so there was, I think it was Toronto and Atlanta or Dallas were playing beforehand. So I'm like, oh, I'll watch the final 5 minutes of this game leading into the Valks game. And at the end of that game, it's just like it just played the same Ion like promo commercial for like 3 minutes straight, and I'm like, whoa, must be tough times over at Ion. They have no commercials.
Well, good, because I have no idea what Ion is, so they can play more of those promos.
And same, I found out a lot about Ion during those 3 minutes, and then I realized, like, oh, this channel's not. I press down on YouTube TV, and it says channel offline, and I'm like, what do you mean? So I go down, and it's on like a different Ion channel. It's like, why do you have three? First and foremost. Second, like, what are you? And apparently, it just replays like CBS cop porn for the rest of its time, which is basically TNT. Like the demise of cable television in terms of its programming is insane. Like there's nothing on Comedy Central but like The Daily Show and then 12 straight hours of The Office reruns.
And which has also become a YouTube show. But anyway, it's...
Yes. My point is merely like Inside the NBA was built for people who didn't change the channel after the game, and then you turn it on in the morning, and then you watch 10 minutes of Bones accidentally.
Correct.
Like that medium no longer exists. Like there's nothing to force people to keep it on the tuner. So just now, let it die.
Well, now we're going into the streaming medium because you look at it's Amazon, it's NBC and Peacock. It's never just NBC. It's always NBC Peacock.
That's death.
And Netflix now you're seeing getting into live sports.
Yeah, they're doing a bang up job too.
We've got essentially the death of regional sports networks happening. In front of us.
It's over.
It's all over.
In 5 years, they're all gone.
There's already rumors that NBA is looking at the Major League Baseball thing and saying, yeah, we're just going to do that. It might be with Apple TV. It'll probably be with YouTube TV if that were my guess. Where we're just going to move League Pass to this. Everybody's going to have their own regional team.
It's already done. It's already Amazon. Amazon has exclusive League Pass control for 10 years.
Oh, okay. So then it's going to be Amazon Prime. Done.
Yeah.
I think then we're in an interesting place because then you go from, hey, the hook for having these post-game shows is leave it on this channel. We'll sell you a few more beer commercials or whatever.
Right.
And then in the morning, you're watching our morning programming because it's just what's on your TV. Where now, I think what the obvious thing is, what's already happening in our medium is I make a lot of money by doing post-game shows for the Miami Heat.
Yep.
That's where the bread and butter is for Locked On Heat.
Yeah.
And I think eventually the smart leagues will be like, well, why are we letting people go somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure they stay here. And so we're just going to end up in the same spot where we were actually before, where it's like, okay, now you're on our streaming service. Instead of this thing ending, now we're going to give you a post-game show, and we might even give you a second post-game show.
Right.
And if you just leave this thing on, because everybody now is second screening anyway, and now you just passively leave the TV on anyway, if you put it on, even if you even put it on your television, but you just leave the screen running, we might hit you with 3 post-game shows with 3 different hosts, 3 different people, and we could just do all this stuff and sell a bunch of more commercials and sell advertising and do all that stuff. I actually think that all of that's going to go there. I have so many thoughts and opinions and questions about all of this.
My thought on that, and I don't know the intricacies of it clearly, but what's the ROI? So like you do a Locked On show, like I do post-game Giants radio all the time. Like I got to come down here, I got to put it on the camera. It's a whole thing. It's streamed on all the stuff. Like the cost of that for me doing it at KMBR is pretty minimal to maintain a standard of professionalism for the broadcast. When the cost of you doing it is merely the cost of your time and a marginal amount of equipment, so long as you have internet access. The cost to do a good TV post-game show is not inconsequential. Just
that's
given
why
the amount of people.
I think the post-game shows will be this.
You might be right on that one. That's why
I should have mentioned that. That's why I think they just, if I am the New York Knicks, for instance, and the Knicks aren't great because they own their own TV network. I need like if I'm the Warriors, and all of our stuff is leaving NBC,
right?
NBC Bay Area, and now
Sooner rather than later,
and now we're gonna just broadcast our things on Amazon.
Yeah,
all our games are gonna be broadcast on Amazon. Obviously, we could pick up some people from the NBC regional network that we like as our sideline reporters and our play-by-play and color analysts in the studio show for during the game and all that stuff. But what's to stop me if I'm the Warriors, instead of going to a Warriors, instead of my Warriors fans I know are going to this Warriors podcast on YouTube, I'm just going to go hire that YouTuber and bring them in here.
Yeah. Well, I first off, I wouldn't hire anybody. I would subcontract them out.
Freelance, whatever it is. Yep.
Right. So to what end? Because where are you putting it? So the idea is everything is on Prime. You need to do a pre and a post game show for some level of audience retention before tip off and post tip off, so that people can get highlights if they missed any part of the game. So you need to have that. You need to have those bookends. But then why would you need the third one if it's Prime's deal? Now, if you're trying to do your own network, now it's a question of how much do you want to put on, to whom are you selling it? And this is the real issue. This is where I keep coming back to. I think we're going to get less because it costs more, and because you're not actually having to serve a larger product. The largest product is the team sports rights. They're obscenely expensive. Even if no one wants to pay for them, it's a very expensive product to put on your own. We've seen in Major League Baseball, like Major League Baseball does the production. They basically hired anyone local from these regional sports networks, and then they do that. They're not putting on 24 hours a day of television product in the same way that a Fox Sports Florida would, even though 10 hours of that was just fishing reruns. Like, they're not putting that on. There's no Inside the Orange Bowl, which is a show I used to host back in the day.
They don't need to fill. Yeah, they don't have like time slots that they.
There's
need to
no
fill
time slots or anything. And that's the biggest thing. There's no
Mm-hmm.
time slots. So unless you're broadcasting this whole thing,
but at the same time, you want to capture some kind of audience for an extended amount of time. So that's why I'm wondering if Amazon Prime will just go out and say like, hey, we could serve.
Didn't they try to put together like a sports TV network and they killed it after 6 months?
Yeah, but they didn't have the NBA rights.
They didn't have the NBA rights. I'll give you that. I mean, it will be interesting if channels really exist in 5
Yeah,
years.
that's true.
Like the concept of a channel, I'm not sure exists anymore. I think everything is a la carte and algorithmically.
I have 100 things I want to ask you about, and I don't want to spend all of our time on.
Well, don't worry.
RSNs.
Everything we just said is about to get cut.
Good. All right, I want to ask you about Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you tell me which one you want to talk about right now.
Let's do the Thunder.
Okay. Have they been good for the league?
No.
And I'm going to answer, and you're going to say no. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no.
Give me why. Give me your no.
It's a real problem when you have such an unlikable style of basketball. That's your issue. It's not, there's nothing plucky or positive. You could have easily spun a narrative if anyone had wanted to about Oklahoma City, the real underdogs coming in and, upending the system, right? Being the smartest guys in the room and playing. Think about how many sports teams have been ruined. How much sports has been ruined in the last 25 years because of Moneyball. Like, you could have moneyballed the bejesus out of the Thunder, Presti ball, or whatever the hell you want to call it. You could have thrown Michael Lewis in Oklahoma City for 2 weeks, created a bestseller, and then everybody who thinks that they have a business degree would have been trying to copy the Sam Presti model. Like, this would have been a very easy thing to do if anyone enjoyed watching them play basketball. But you cannot have the style of play that specifically Shai Gilgeous-Alexander exudes and present it as some hero to the story. And then it's impossible for a team from Oklahoma City to be true villains because they're not a big market. If the Knicks played this way and everybody on the Knicks was, had this loathsomeness to them.
Well, this was the 90s Knicks.
Right. That's something, because now it's big bad New York and everyone comes in, and that's an easy sell.
Yep.
But you're not supposed to be afraid of Oklahoma City.
Right.
And them playing this way, it almost feels like they hacked basketball.
Yeah.
And no one wants to watch the spreadsheets. I mean, it is. I really don't think. I know that there's, they get this whistle, they get this whistle. They get the whistle because they have successfully, it's just specifically SGA. They have successfully taken this thing to its fullest limit of plausible deniability. Like, the way that he plays basketball is unquestionably brilliant, but he's using all of his powers for evil. And I mean, you and I watched James Harden do it. At least James Harden had the common decency to fail in the biggest moments, just to make sure that karmic justice was served. Like, you can do all of that crap up until it really matters. But if James Harden were to have succeeded when it really mattered, the NBA would have had an existential crisis with them. They have an existential crisis with OKC on two fronts. One, Sam Presti has absolutely rigged the game in his favor, and all the credit in the world to him. But he saw what was coming with the CBA.
Yep. He
got out way ahead of it, and he absolutely, it's laughable. Think about that lottery and how many people were holding their breaths around the league so that Oklahoma City wouldn't have a top 4 pick. Like, that shouldn't be happening. That's just Sam being exceptionally good at his job and having impeccable timing. But then SGA out here, I mean, every single time he goes anywhere near the paint, which should be every possession, it is just gyrations and flailing, and no one wants to watch that because it's dishonest. It's inauthentic, and it's him playing not for the crowd and the art of the game and showing off his incredible skills, but rather him playing because he knows that the most efficient way to get to score is to be at the free throw line. And it's against the spirit of the game. And if that continues, you're going to have a trifecta of small market domination, like true, legitimate, longer than you think is going to last domination, or at least relevance, certainly relevance. And then an MVP caliber player leading that thing who no one actually likes watching play basketball. Right. I don't know how you could draw up something worse for the NBA, frankly.
And so I have pushed back against the Thunder are horrible to watch thing that's been out there.
Not on defense. They're awesome on defense.
And that's where I was going with this, is I have so immensely enjoyed watching OKC the last few years because of what they are able to do defensively. And by the way, the whistles that we're talking about for that Shai gets,
Yeah.
They're not being called for anything defensively. This team gets into you. They hack the
they're
crap
awesome.
out of you. They come down on your arms all the time, and they don't get called for it. But more
Correct.
credit to them.
Isn't that equally annoying though? That
It
like
is
if we're going to have this
if you're the team
rinky-dink
playing them, it is.
But
I
if you're
also
even coming at it from a third-party perspective, it just doesn't feel proportional at all.
Well, they have
and
to
there's
your
a
point,
cognitive dissonance too.
There
like,
is, because you see what should be a foul and it's not called a foul.
And then on the other end, they're hacking. I mean, listen,
Right.
my dad hates the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks because he's like, they broke the rules and breaking the rules is bad. We're Catholic. It's a whole thing. And like, I get that. I really do get that. Playing for the rule book and not playing the game is death.
Well, that's where I think, just like you're talking about with Shea taking it as far as he possibly can offensively, I think the Thunder have done that defensively, where it's, hey, if we just get so physical with you at the beginning of these games in particular, we know the referees they are not allowed to call all of these. The game would never end. So let's just do this. Let's set the terms of engagement now, and then we can pretty much do this. And we're better at doing this because we do it every night than the other team. So even when the other team thinks that they don't know what they can get away with, we know exactly what we can get away with.
It's so bad.
I hear you on the small market thing. I think is an interesting conversation.
There's a way it can work, but I don't think it works this way. Not even close to working this way.
I don't think
they're not plucky.
I think as great as Shea is, he does not capture imagination. And we could talk about how he has rigged it to get to the free throw line and all these things. He also doesn't dunk or shoot threes. And those are the two things that are fun. And so he doesn't capture the imagination of 8-year-olds. They're not interested in his footwork, you know?
No.
And so
he's
10-year-old Dieter growing up
robotic.
in Chicago would love Shea because he won a championship, but that's it.
Yeah. And again, small market. That's the
and-
other, like, if this was happening with the Lakers and everyone hates them, that's fine. You have the LA market and you have a built-in hatred. It's easier to forget about Oklahoma City than it is to think about them in a hard way.
Zeitgeist. You have the whole thing that if you're not interesting, we'll find a way to make you interesting. And they don't have that in Oklahoma City.
If you're in a big market.
If you're in a big, that's what I'm saying. If you're in Los Angeles, New York, or Boston, those are the three places that if you're not interesting, we'll find a way to make you interesting and get you a Defensive Player of the Year award that you don't deserve, Marcus Smart. Like, those are the things that we can do as a media market. They don't have that in Oklahoma City.
No.
And so,
No.
But beyond all
in the
the
ass to get
taste
to.
things, there's two other reasons that we left out here that I think the Thunder have been bad for the league. And by the way, this is not an anti-Thunder take. This is just an
Mine is. Mine's an anti-Thunder take. I hate the way they've done.
They've done two things that I think the NBA is actively upset about.
Yeah.
Number one, they've created a false sense of hope for teams and fan bases who want to tank.
Totally.
Because now they all think that they can be Sam Presti and the Thunder. Hey, if we're just bad for a couple of years and we take on your bad contracts and get a bunch of future picks out of it, we're willing to live with that. Fan bases have now excused tanking, and now the NBA is taking the most dramatic steps it ever has to curb tanking. And if you don't think the Thunder have influenced that in maybe the most major way of any other particular body in the sport, you're wrong. The teams are tanking because of the Thunder.
And the other aspect of that is who would be the other team that you would say is San Antonio.
Right.
So, tanking works. That's the argument that they're making.
Well, tanking works. Right. Now people think that tanking works.
Yeah.
And a GM's job is not to make the job. A general manager's job isn't to make the team better. That's not the first job. The first job for a general manager is to keep the job. And a really good way to keep your job is to sell hope and be like, look, we're going to be the next San Antonio. We're going to be the next OKC. Yeah. We might not get Wemby in this draft, but if you give us enough chances, we'll get him in a draft. So just hold it. Just hold out. So that's the first thing. The second thing that the Thunder have done that has ruined the league, that the league is actively upset about, is the spotlight on officiating, like what we were just talking about, in a way we have never seen with previous champions. Ever. Not to this degree. Nobody complained about the officiating with the Celtics or the Nuggets or the Warriors dynasty or
they're
LeBron
a main
James.
character in every game.
The officiating is under
in
the
order
spotlight.
For that style play to work.
And because now the players and the coaches are coming out and being like, this isn't fair.
Yeah, it's bad.
Critiquing the officiating. And so in this way, I don't think that's... I still kind of enjoy watching the Thunder play. I do. I don't think you can make an argument that they've been good for the sport, because I think they've actively been bad for the sport.
I think your points are much more salient than mine because they're bigger picture. And let's think about, I was going to mention the officiating thing. Like, this is the one league that has had.
They can't have this.
They cannot have the officials be center place.
Right.
Why do I watch damn near every NFL game? I can name like 5 refs. Right? I'm not naming side judges. An
and
NBA
they're usually
game
just the ones with the biceps. That
I mean, yeah, his
Ed Hockley.
I'm sorry, but like I know a Ron Tolbert game, things are going to get weird, but that's a different conversation. Like I'm looking for a Carl Jeffers in my life, but when you go to the NBA's media box score, I don't know, maybe they put it on the NBA. Like you look at the starting lineup, a couple things here, their records, and then who was refereeing this game.
Right.
And I have an opinion on every single one of these men and women. Yep. I know every single one. I got a little scouting report in my brain. Don't even need to look them up. I'm like, oh boy.
And you know what the tone and the tempo and the cadence of that game is probably going to look like.
And you're just begging you see Zach Zarba. You're just like, come on, Zarba game.
God, give me a Zarba game.
The fact that we can say that and we don't need to be like, let me tell you who Zach Zarba is a problem. And again, this is the one league that has had, I mean, as we dive deeper and deeper into the abyss that is now match fixing, this is the one league that has had this front and center and has constant conspiracy theories, one of which has been validated, regarding how officials do stuff. This is a sport who, say what you will about certain NFL decisions that have been made, the pass interference in New Orleans, all this stuff. But like you mentioned referees, I got like 15 things in my head. Yep. Going back, you're thinking Kings and Lakers. You're thinking down the line, how many free throws to Dwayne Wade and the
I do not. First of all, Dwayne Wade. I went back and watched the 2006 finals 2 years ago.
It was just a bad series.
He earned all those trips to the free throw line.
Every
Mavericks
last one.
Stop fouling him.
And
don't foul him.
Again, I'm not there, but like you will always have referees in basketball have such an outplaced spot in the narrative, and Oklahoma City has weaponized that in the same way that Houston did before them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like they've weaponized.
And by the way, I don't think that the league rigged anything for the Thunder. I know that's not what you're saying.
No.
Especially not against the Lakers. That makes even less sense.
It's only because they're so good that they can do what they do. Like
and
that is fundamental.
And I think ultimately the greatest victim out of all of this won't be the teams that the Thunder are playing, but the Thunder themselves, because they are good enough to win the championship without all of this stuff. And
yes.
And
unquestionably.
And you are going to just come away from these championships, probably plural, and just say, there's going to be, I'll say this, a lot of people will point to them and almost give them an asterisk because it's like, oh, they got to the foul line, they didn't deserve them.
Who's carrying their legacy?
Right, exactly.
I'm going to add one more thing here real fast.
Please do.
On the tank aspect and justifying tanking. I mean, it's always been inherent in a sport like basketball where one player can fundamentally change the entire trajectory of a franchise in a way that really only a quarterback could do in football, and like very few players in the history of hockey have ever been able to do, just because of the numbers and the people that are playing, 6-7 guys in a playoff game. But like what is lost in the Presti tank being so effective is he didn't get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the draft.
Thank you.
He got the player via trade in the Paul George trade. So all those extra picks were to supplement what turned out. And even then, I mean, you and I were both big on SGA and thinking that he was, much, much better. And I remember even having a conversation with you way back in the day about like, they should just go get SGA. He's going to be really, really good. Not this, but like we thought that he was a really enticing prospect way back in the day. And making him the centerpiece of that Paul George trade with all the other stuff that they got, striking when the iron's hot, all that, bringing in Chris Paul to kind of galvanize it, having Al Horford around for a year. The moves that are forgotten in their details are the ones that have actually been most impressive.
The Thunder, Sam Presti built his team the right way, and I hate saying the right way because
if you're in a small market, how else are you supposed to do it other than what he did? That's the masterclass.
I mean, we could debate the tanking part of it too, being the right way or not, but in the sense of, I think we look at teams that get built through the draft and say those teams did it the right way, and I vehemently disagree with that. If there was one thing to do to build a team the right way, we would have gotten rid of the other things. If it was right to build through the draft, then get rid of free agency and trades. Just do that.
Yeah.
The right way is to use all of the things. The Thunder traded for their best player.
Mm-hmm.
They drafted their other good players, and then they used free agency to supplement those good players for the final pieces that they needed to get to the championship. So in other words, when I say that the Thunder were built the right way, they did it with all of the ways. They did the draft, they did the trades, and they did free agency. So next time I hear an anti-tanking fix or something like that, like or hey, teams should get the benefit of the doubt for drafting their players, and then they should be able to get a thing against the cap or whatever. I disagree with all of it, because then you're telling me that the right way to build a team is the draft, where the right way to build this team is to use all of the avenues presented to you and do it right and just make good decisions with that.
There is an ipso facto level to some of that, to be fair. Like, you can't sign the free agent first and then hope you draft well after that.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. They did it the right way. They did it in the order of operations was correct.
But all of them have to be present for it to be qualified as the right way.
Correct.
I'm with you on that.
Last thing here, wouldn't be an episode with Dieter Kurtenbach if we didn't do a take wheel spin.
I love the take wheel so much.
I've got 20 topics for you.
Okay.
You give me a number 1 through 20. We'll get to like a couple of these.
19.
Grocery store express lanes.
You know what? I have softened my stance significantly on the exact number. The express lanes, meaning you check out self-checkout or 15 or items or less.
I think of express lanes as like, the 15 items or less where you're still interacting with a human.
Yeah, I think one, they have to be maintained. Two, if someone wants to mess around with that, I do feel like public shaming is getting better as of late. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going like full Karen where everything is this crisis, this and that. I just think that, like, if you're
the fear of Karen is sometimes enough.
Yeah. You know, the Karens had to go through the wall so that we could all side eye, I guess. And I feel like I was in one the other day, and I had forgotten that, like, and then the other thing is like, okay, I have like 12 avocados. Does that count as 1 or 12?
Right, a bag of avocados.
If you're coming in with reasonable expectations, like, I feel like I can get in here. If you have 21 items, but you're moving fast, who gives a damn? Now, if you're somebody who takes the full carton there, then you're going to get the side eye. And if you're someone who's capable of handling that kind of scrutiny, you know what? More power to you. Life is going to be hell in a lot of ways. But, like, if you can do it, if you can stand there, because you just see all these people, they're holding their stuff, right? They have a hand basket, or they're physically holding all of them. And if you can handle, as you put your 82nd item on the smaller, typically conveyor belt, and, you know, I don't blame the grocery store people for not doing it, for not, you know,
they don't
policing it or whatever. They sometimes do. They sometimes don't. I can't blame anybody for not. But, like, if you can handle that kind of pressure, either you're, one, a sociopath, or two, you have a very good reason. Either way, I'm not messing around with it. I'm just going to give the side eye. I'm going to give my big, loud scoff, and we're just going to move on. Because sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and that person is going to lose a lot more than they're going to win because they have no understanding of how to operate inside of society. So I gave up on it. I used to make a big stink about it. I'm someone who can get away with it because I'm just bigger and louder, and, you know, I was championing the cause, but that's just being an asshole too. So I skipped it.
Let's do one more.
4.
Movies.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. We don't have, a lot of people have been complaining, and I'll be the first one through on this one, complaining about the lack of sort of a monoculture or a true zeitgeist. And so much, I think, of that monoculture and zeitgeist really did, and this is a weird thing, I might be ascribing too much value to this, but a lot of, I think, a connective tissue of American life, and we think about all the distance. You're in Miami. I'm in San Francisco. We live in the same country. We are 3,000 miles away, and so many different life experiences between the two. But we still have some connective tissue here as Americans, even though we live in two different states. It couldn't be further away. There was something to everyone knowing what movies were in the theater on the weekend and figuring out which ones you wanted to go see. And you had to go into a collective operation. Like, if you wanted to see it, like, oh, it might be a lot of stuff. And because we have so many options for entertainment now, I feel like it's impossible where we're not all having to kind of glide into stuff. This is why sports have maybe outpaced their own true importance, because it's one of the last things that's like on a schedule. You want to go, you got to, you know, either pay for cable, which is, you know, kind of this bygone thing, or be in the building. There's just not that many of those things anymore. And I think movies were a really big thing. Like, I don't remember the last conversation I had with somebody about a movie that we all saw, or, oh, I want to go see that. Like it happens maybe once a year, and since I got little kids, that used to be constant, Wes.
It reflects the same conversation you have around streaming shows, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, have you been watching Your Friends and Neighbors? No.
No.
Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, okay. Have you seen this movie in theaters? No. Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll go to. The movie theater has just become another streaming service. That's all it is.
It absolutely has. And the other day I played hooky. And I'm just like, you know what? My wife had taken the two kids somewhere. I had the night to myself. It was weird. I'm like, is this a test? What's going on here? Should I just do dishes for the next 4 hours? And it's like, should this house come back cleaner? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, so I'm walking the dog. We have a movie theater. One of the reasons I moved to the town that I live in is because there's a movie theater like 4 blocks from our house in like the town center.
Right.
And I just remember having that as a kid. And that being such an important aspect of like the communal existence of a 13-year-old in Oak Park, Illinois. And I'm like, oh, I want that for my kids. I mean, I think the movie theater will make it, but like, it's not the same thing.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to go see a movie. I saw there's like a documentary on Lorne Michaels. Thank God something was showing that was interesting to me, because otherwise it was me and Mario Brothers, and that was going to be weird. But like, I went to the movies. I'm like, this is awesome. We should go back to the movies. And I see, we live right by a high school. It's right across from the movie theater. And I see these kids, and they got the real earplugs in. And I think, they're hacking iPads or iPods so that they have their own music, and it's anti-algorithmic. And there's this little bit of a Luddite thing going on. And so I just suggest to everybody, if you're thinking that maybe we're all a little bit too connected, go to the movies. You're not allowed to use your phone.
Yep.
They're just going to put it on a big ass screen. They have great popcorn.
Yep.
Yeah, it costs something. It's not crazy if you go at the right time. And you know what? Take a chance on a movie, as opposed to now where everything is so curated and it's delivered to you, and you're not really taking a chance on anything, because if you don't like it, you can bail in 5 minutes. Like, you have to sit there and you have to watch the whole damn thing. Like, that's good for you. That's good for you. I think we should go back to the movies. People want to say like Blockbuster. Forget that. Like, Blockbuster is just kind of a pain in the ass. Go back to the actual movie theater. If you dare, because the movie theater is important. Like, I feel like it's an important part of American society that we're slowly losing, and I'm going to make it a task upon myself to bring it back single-handedly via the RealGM radio network.
Dieter Kurtenbach, one of my favorite guests here. Always enjoy talking. We could do another 2 hours on this, I'm sure. Maybe not in the movie theater, but on other topics.
I was clearly tuckering out there on the movie theater take, but Wes, always a pleasure, my friend. We don't do it often enough.